Welcome to the XIII Corrosion channel. My name is Maryam Ehteshamzadeh. An introduction to this channel is available on video number E28. Chapter 9, Section 13, Risk-Based Inspection. In this video, relationship with jurisdictional requirements and planning the RBI program, Phase 1, organizing the work process. The reference is Elements of a Risk-Based Inspection Program, API Recommended Practice 580. What's risk? Risk is the product of the probability of an event or failure occurring during a time period of interest or POF and the consequences, generally negative, associated with the event or failure or COF. The horizontal axis is consequence of failure and the vertical axis is probability of failure. This region is the acceptable region. This is the region of as low as reasonably possible, and this is the region of not tolerable. Risk equals probability times consequence. In the two probability approach to risk, the first probability term, P1, describes the probability that the presence of a hazard will result in a hazardous situation, P1. The second probability term, P2, describes the probability that a hazardous situation will result in harm. Relationship with jurisdictional requirements. Codes and legal requirements vary from one jurisdiction to another. In some cases, jurisdictional requirements mandate specific actions such as the type of inspections and intervals between inspections. In jurisdictions that permit the application of the API inspection codes and standards, RBI should be an acceptable method for establishing inspection plans and setting inspection due dates. All users shall review applicable jurisdictional code and legal requirements for acceptability of using RBI for inspection planning purposes. The fact that some jurisdictions may have some prescriptive time-based rules on inspection intervals does not preclude the user from gaining significant benefits from the application of RBI, as long as jurisdictional requirements are met and as long as the local regulations do not specifically prohibit the use of RBI planning. 3 benefits of applying RBI include the following. 1. Evidence of sound risk management and integrity monitoring programs that can be used as a basis for advocating adoption of RBI by jurisdictions. 2. Evidence of fulfilling requirements of meeting specific industry standards as well as other types of asset integrity programs. And 3. Basis for reducing risk further than what may be achieved through time-based inspection rules. Planning the RBI program. Planning the RBI program includes 7 phases as follows. 1. Organizing the work process. 2. Establishing objectives and goals of an RBI assessment. 3. Initial screening. 4. Establish operating boundaries. 5. Selecting a method of RBI assessment. 6. Factors influencing the resources and time required. 7. Keys for success, RBI program planning. Planning the RBI program, Phase 1, organizing the work process. This section provides guidelines for an owner-operator to determine the scope and priorities for an RBI assessment. The organizing process of aligning priorities, screening risks, and identifying boundaries improves the efficiency and effectiveness of conducting the RBI assessment and its end results in managing risk. This process provides a. Alignment of priorities for consistency in effort and resources. B. Focus effort by screening the assets, units, sites, etc. for those applicable to the effort. And C. Identification of boundary limits to determine what is vital to include in the risk assessment. Performing an RBI assessment is a team-based process that requires proper skills and knowledge from multiple disciplines as outlined in another video. 13 questions that should be answered prior to initiating an RBI assessment. Prior to initiating an RBI assessment, the following questions should be answered to organize the work process. 1. Why the RBI assessment is being done. 2. How the RBI assessment will be performed. 3. What knowledge and skills are required for the RBI assessment. 4. Who is on the RBI team. 5. What are the roles of each RBI team member in the RBI process. 6. Who is responsible and accountable for what actions? 7. Which facilities, assets, and components will be included? 8. What data are to be used in the RBI assessment? 9. What codes and standards are applicable? 10. When the RBI assessment will be completed? 11. How long the RBI assessment will remain in effect and when it will be updated? 12. How the results will be used? 13. What is the plan period? At the conclusion of the planning portion of the development of the RBI program, the following should have been completed. A. Establish the objectives of the risk analysis. B. Identify the physical boundaries. C. Identify the operating boundaries. And D. Develop screening questions and criteria consistent with the objectives of the analysis and identified physical and operating boundaries. Once this portion of the RBI planning process has been completed, the data and information required for collection should be identified. Note: it may be necessary to revise the objectives, boundaries, screening questions, and other ongoing assumptions based upon the availability and quality of the data and information. Essential steps of an RBI program. The RBI workflow process is shown in the simplified block diagram in this figure. Risk-based inspection analysis process. Acquire or update data. Assign or update damage mechanisms. Assess risk and rank. Risk mitigation, process monitoring, inspection planning. If inspection planning is necessary, then execute inspections and then review results. Again, acquire or update data. This diagram identifies the typical steps of a complete and sustainable RBI program. This diagram is applicable to the figure shown on video number 43, Chapter 9, Section 8, slide number 793, regardless of which RBI method, qualitative or quantitative, is selected. Continuum of RBI methods is shown in this figure. Detail of RBI analysis is high when quantitative RBI is selected, and detail of RBI analysis is low when qualitative RBI is selected. Essential elements that exist in any RBI program shall include documentation of the following: A. Management systems for maintaining documentation, personnel qualification, data requirements, consistency of the program, and analysis update. B. Method for probability of failure determination. C. Method for consequence of failure determination. D. Methodology for managing risk through inspection, process control, and mitigation activities. However, all the elements outlined in the purpose of API RP 580 should be adequately addressed in all RBI applications, in accordance with the requirements and guidelines established by this document. The complexity of a risk assessment is a function of the number of factors that can affect the risk. A spectrum of qualitative to quantitative methods are available to assess risk. Further, such risk assessment may not provide realistic results due to a lack of data, low quality data, or the use of an approach that does not adequately differentiate the risk presented by the equipment items. Therefore, the risk analysis should be validated before decisions are made based on the risk-based inspection assessment results. The typical steps for performing a risk assessment and management include: 1. Collect and validate data. 2. Perform damage mechanism review and identify credible failure modes. 3. Identify and quantify credible consequence scenarios resulting from the failure modes. A. Initiating event. B. Escalated scenarios. 4. Determine probability of each consequence scenario. A. Determine probability of failure over a defined time frame for each damage mechanism. 5. Calculate risk and review risk assessment results. 6. Develop a risk-based management plan and evaluate the residual risk. Challenge number 52. Thank you for your time and attention. If you'd like to challenge yourself, please answer these questions in the comments section. 1. Describe 3 benefits of applying risk-based inspection when an organization has to abide by jurisdictional requirements. 2. Which questions should be answered prior to initiating an RBI assessment? 3. What are the essential elements that exist in any RBI program?